see many comrades misinterpret the concept of class consciousness. They interpret class consciousness to mean simply that the working class has awareness of itself as working class, and consequently that it has an awareness of the owning class as its enemy, as existing in a contradictory position to the owning class. If this is what class consciousness meant, if this was really the pith of the subjective conditions for revolution, we would have had a revolution a long time ago. Go to any workplace in America, and American workers understand themselves as the working class, and they understand that whatever company they are working for does not have their best interest at heart. They know the company is screwing them over. This basic understanding already exists. Therefore, this cannot be what we mean by class consciousness, because if not, with the objective revolutionary conditions that we have, and with this being the subjective conditions present, revolution would have taken place a long time ago. There is another element of consciousness, specifically related to class consciousness, that has to exist, and this is a historical element. They must not only understand themselves as workers in a contradictory position to the owners, but they must understand that this is a specific historical relation. That this is not natural, that this is not universal, that this is not something that has always existed. They must understand this as a result of history, and in doing so, they must understand that this is not permanent, that this is changeable, and even more than that, that it is in their power as a class that exists in a position in the economy that allows them to have this universal emancipatory power, that it is in their power as a class to abolish these conditions and to create the conditions for the possibility of a society that is not mediated through classes. Marx himself does not go out into a systematic study of class consciousness. We get bits here and there, but it is in the 20th century with a thinker named George Lukács that we have the first Marxist systematic treatment of what class consciousness is. And this is something he understood very well. Class consciousness is intermingled, it is necessarily tied to the working class's understanding of historical and dialectical materialism, which is an understanding that requires them to see themselves as, in this moment, the historical emancipatory class. This is a theme that doesn't just come from Marxism, it's present in Hegelianism as well. It is through the particular through which the universal becomes possible. And this theme, we get it in Marxism in the form that instead of thinking of socialism as the utopians were, as a harmonization of the classes, looking for the universal in the universal, in Marxism we have an understanding that it is in the particular class that produces the surplus, the class that is living in a degraded, wretched existence. It is in this particular class where where the potential for universal emancipation is present. And thus class consciousness is this historical awareness, not simply workers seeing themselves as workers. In order for the working class to be a class in itself and for itself, it has to understand itself not just how it is now, it has to understand itself historically, why it is how it is now, and because of how it is now, and because of the conditions that have led to that, what potential does it have in shaping the future.